Hi there, everybody. My name is Court Bowman. I'm the owner and president of Cleveland Consulting. And what I want to do today is walk you through our latest product, ccMaps. Before we dive into how to integrate and how to get it set up, let me give you a brief overview of what ccMaps is designed to do. What we wanted to do is give you a tool designed to show the data from your databases easily and simply on a map, not only just for review and for reporting and to look at it, but we wanted to give you a method that lets you easily edit large sets of data quickly and conveniently. Sometimes you want to change data in your database geographically, not just from a list view. And sometimes looking at map data in a list view is not very convenient for seeing what's close to each other. So we built ccMaps for some real world uses we had, and I want to walk you through not only what it does in brief, but also how to integrate it. So we're going to live integrate this with a database. I've got a copy of the contacts new file that you can build with FileMaker Pro really easily. All I've done was I've added 100 records here, put some sample data in them with some addresses, and I added a geolocated address there so we can have the latitude and longitude, which will make mapping it really easily. So we'll dive through this step by step. You'll see how easy it is to integrate, and we'll take a look at what ccMaps does. So first thing we're going to do, as so often we need to do, is we need to add an external data source. So I'm going to go down to File, Manage, Data Sources. We're going to add a data source for this contacts database to ccMaps. I'm going to go to Contacts. We're going to add that. And that's it for step one. We've added contacts as an external data source. Next thing we want to do is a logical second step is going to manage databases. And we're going to add to the relationship graph a table occurrence for that contacts database that we just added. So I'm going to go to contacts here. We're going to have to authorize this the first time. This is part of FileMaker's new security. We're going to add the contacts table as a table occurrence. We've got a little note here for you to organize your data. This is all the work we're doing. Here's a test database, and here's a contacts database that we just added. So that's done. These steps are clearly defined under the integration step in our help. So what we've done so far is we've added an external data source, and we've added a table occurrence. The next thing we're going to need to do is add a new layout. So what we'll do is we'll go over here under Manage Layouts. We'll make a new layout for that contacts table. We're going to do this from the contacts table occurrence that we've just added. We'll call this contacts, cleverly enough. We'll just make this a list layout, finish it up here. Now, obviously, we jump to that layout. We could add anything we want to here, but we'll just add first name, last name, company, website, address one, city, state. Let's put these out here. Tidy this up a little bit. We won't look at this list, but it just annoys me to leave things untidy. So I'll clean this up a little bit. And then we'll go back to the home screen. So we'll save that work that we've done there. Let me show the status toolbar here, which is hidden by default. Just to keep it looking clean, we'll go to the home screen, which is back where we started. So we've now made our layout. So now as the help says, we're ready to create our first map. Integration is pretty simple. There's a couple things you would want to do if you hadn't already done them. We have the latitude and longitude in this sample data. This is all fake addresses, fake companies, but we've got fake but close latitude and longitude for each of these. We use Google's API, and this product ships with a test Google API key in it. You'll want to get your own API key, and I'm not walking through how to do that, but how to do that is in the help here. So if you need help with that, there is information on how to get your API key in the integration help and in the installation and access. But now we're just going to go to making our first map. So when we go to make a map, we just ask you some basic questions about what you want to do. So we want to call this map something. We can call it anything we want to, but we're going to call this contacts. And then we want to get this map data from some table. So we're going to call this, we want to get this from the contacts table. In the file name contacts, we need a record field for this. This is just the default primary key in this. So over here in this file, you can see under the tables and fields, the primary key in all of theirs is called primary key. So we're going to get the primary key of that field called primary key. Now we need a popover field. So in the map, and you'll see this when we go to look at it, there is a popover header, a popover body, and a label. So when you're looking at pins on the map, you can see that data. So if we look at the sample map, for example, each one of these pins has a popover, a label and a body. And if we toggle the labels off and on, you would see that when the labels show up, they have data on them. So we've got the address on the sample map. You can see we've already started building our map. We don't have quite enough to go for it yet, but under the configuration, we'll need to pick fields for that. So in this case, for the header field, I'm just going to call this, we'll go with first name for that. And then for the body field, we'll call this company. There's a company field in this sample data. And for the label, we'll do last name if we wanted to show something. The lat long field in this sample data is called lat long, cleverly enough. That's just over here. And then we'll need a pin match field. So on each map, you can see a different pin. In this case, we're just going to match off of this field I've created called sales staff assigned. Sales staff assigned. And then we'll want to have pins for this. So we'll just make 3 sample sales staff. And rather than making these one by one, I'm just going to load some default pins. So let's just load 3 default pins. And we'll put some values in there. So I'll be one of the salespeople. We'll pick Marna, and we'll pick Ricky. And there'll be salespeople 1, 2, and 3. We don't need these fields if we needed a foreign key for the shape, if we wanted to relate those shapes to another table. We could talk about shapes later, or if we wanted to have a value list to match off of, those could put those in there. We can have a default filter for the map, so we could only show court sales records or records in Ohio, but we're going to do all that under the buttons. So in each map, you can find any number of records you want to. And in this case, we use buttons and assigns for that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a sales staff find button. This is the script that we're running. You could change this, but this default script is set to use a field. And so we're going to use this same sales staff assigned field that we've used. So this is sales staff assigned. And we're going to leave the value blank. What that means is we're going to ask the user when they click that button what sales staff they want to find for. We could make this a new find. We could constrain the existing find. We could extend the existing find using FileMaker terminology. You can have as many buttons as you want. So we could have this sales staff assigned, continue to constrain it to refine it down. You could pick by state. You could do anything else you want to. But right now we're going to leave it like that. And we're going to make some sales staff assigned buttons. Once we get our found set, let's delete that for now. Let's get our found set going. And now that I have these records over here, let's just use this contacts layout that I made to look at records if we click on them. So that should be enough. If we go over here to the detail, we're on our contacts, we click find, let's find for empty records, and this will find a map with the 100 records we have in the sample database shown on a map. Now these all have question marks. If we click on these clusters, you can see that there are 3 in this cluster. They have question marks because they're not assigned to a sales staff. So if we go back to refresh this for empty, we find all 100 records that are empty in this database. And so we found 100 empty records, but what we want to do is we want to start assigning some of those to people. So if I scroll out, let's just pick to assign some records to somebody. And if I wanted to assign these 2 states' territories to a salesperson, in FileMaker and List View, that would be a little tricky. But in this tool, it gets quite easy to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to the assign. I'm going to assign these 2. I'm going to make a button for assigning them to court. I'm going to assign sales staff assigned to court. Then I can make a couple other buttons for Marna and for Ricky. We're assigning the exact same field, 2 different values. But in this case, Marna and Ricky each get their own button. So you can have a set of buttons that assigns the staff based off of a preset value. So I'll make these 3 different colors. This is just to help identify the buttons. Doesn't really matter. It's just a look thing. And so if I go back over here and I look at the detail screen, now I've got these, assign these buttons to Court, Martin, and Ricky. Well, what records do I want to assign? Well, I'll draw a shape. So I could add a circle. I could say, well, let me draw a shape around these records here. And then I would assign these records, in this case, to Court. And so what it's going to do is it's going to go through and assign those records. We've assigned 24 records. 0 didn't update. If something goes wrong, we'd let you know. And so if I come over here now and I say, well, find me all the ones with Court in them, I'm going to find those records with Court assigned as the sales staff. So those 24 records. If I find for records with Marna in them, I get no records. But if I wanted to assign some records to Marna, well, what I do is, and you can see these, the ones that I assigned to myself, all have a 1 on them. I could add a polygon and I could say, well, Marna's got this whole West Coast. So I'm just going to assign her this whole West Coast. Marna's going to have a big territory, and she's going to get out through Oklahoma and Texas. So I've got this shape, then I'm going to assign those to Marna. And what we're going to do is run through, and you can see now Marna has been assigned to these 26 records, and they all have 2s on them. So as I scroll in here, we get closer, the cluster should expand out, and these all now have 2s. And so if I go back over here and I do that same find, now I get those 26 records that have Marna assigned. So that's a quick overview of what this does. It lets you assign records based off of shapes, looking at what that data does. And so you can assign records, you can find records. And as you look at this, you can start imagining, well, I could save shapes. And so I could have a shape that is a territory, and I could assign records by territory or find records by territory very easily. I could find records for a certain territory, and then by salesperson, I can find customers by a tier or whether invoices are overdue. I could assign these to work crews or to salespeople or update order statuses all on a map. And so we have customers that are doing mobile work order systems and assigning records out. And so that's a quick overview of how this does. You can see I was able to integrate this live with a system that I didn't write and I made very few changes to. This is FileMaker's default contacts database that you can make with a new database button under FileMaker menu anytime you want. All I've done was I've filled out some default data, added a field for lat long, and added a salesperson field so we had something to assign. If you need help assigning latitude and longitude in this tool, we've got some sample scripts that make this easy. There's this helpful scripts, geocode found sets, and geocode a specific address. You'll want to get your own Google API key for this because there's a cost associated with this, but this makes this very easy to do. I appreciate you watching this video. Hopefully it wasn't too long. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from everybody interested in this product. We really appreciate your attention. Thanks so much and have a great day.